Hi, in this video I want to cover the concept of blocks inside Webiny Page Builder. Blocks are designed with content standardization and reusability in mind. Now, before I show you what that means, let's just see what do we have here in the main menu with regards to blocks. Let's just move this one here. So we have this section called blocks, and under there we have blocks and categories. So blocks are placed in categories, and we can have multiple categories. So categories are used as a way to organize the pre-made blocks we have in the system. So for our demo today, let's start off by creating a new block category. So we already have a few: call to action, feature, hero blocks, pricing. But for our demo, let's just create a new category called demo, and let's just pick a random icon for it. All right, and this is. Let's just give it some description and let's save it. All right. So we have now our new category here, and with that we can place blocks inside that category. Before I go into the blocks section, what I will do is I'll actually go back to the pages, because in the previous video, if you followed that one, we created this kind of a hero block inside the page editor. So I'm just going to edit this one. So we go back into the page editor. So we have this block, right? And now this block is here fully editable. But imagine if I need this block on like a dozen other pages. I don't want to rebuild the whole thing every single time, right? So I want to save it, and then when I'm creating a new page where I need it, I just want to pull it back in. But the other thing I want to do as well is if it's not just me creating the content for this website, if there's a whole team of content editors, I want to ensure the content editors use the pre-made blocks in the way they are designed and kind of limit their editing capabilities. I don't want them to be able to, say, move this section from the top to the bottom. I don't want them to be able to add a third button here and things like that. So I want to limit in a way their creativity when it comes to those pre-made blocks, because I want to ensure that once the blocks are created using our company's brand line and guidelines and UX best practices, that my team of content editors can just go and use that content without me worrying that I will kind of edit it in ways that it wasn't imagined initially. All right, so now I'm going to show you one way to create a block and save it, but there's a few other ways I'm going to also show you. So in this case, I'm inside on already a ready-made page, right? And in this page, I can have multiple blocks, right? So this can be another block and another block and another block, right? But but specifically, I want this one block I want to save it so I can reuse it later. To do that, I just need to select the block. So in this case, I can see this by this active element selector that is placed on the block. And if I move here in the right sidebar to the element tab, I can press the save button. Now this save button is similar to this model here is similar to the one that you saw when we were saving an element, but this one's slightly different in a way that it has this category drop down, right? So here I want to name my block and save it in the new category that I've created. And here we're going to have some preview. At the moment, this preview sometimes can kind of mess the font up a bit, but just ignore that. When you insert it into the page, it's going to look correctly, and in the meantime, hopefully we'll fix this issue, right? So I'm going to save this one. So there we go. My demo hero block has been saved. All right. Now let's go back and let's go back to the blocks section here. I will go into my demo block, into my demo category, and well, it seems like I pressed the save button 2 times, but cool, we can demonstrate the delete block option. So under a block, you have a couple of options. One of them is the option to delete the block, and we can just press the delete and that block will go away. The other option that we have is the option to duplicate a block. Now, imagine you creating a couple of blocks, but they're similar but not identical. So a better starting point than having a blank canvas is having using an existing block as a starting point, right? And for that purpose, we have the duplicate block option. Now, if I click this one, what's going to happen is inside the same category, I'm going to have a new block that's going to have the same name. We'll just add the copy indicator in the brackets, right? And now I can edit this block, change the design slightly, rename it, and I have my new block. So because I don't need it in this particular case, I'm going to delete this one. The edit button will place me inside a block editor. And there are some minor differences between the block editor and the page editor. I'm going to explain that in a second. And lastly, we have the option to download the block. What this does is it downloads this block as an archive, and that archive will contain all of the block assets. So you have, if that block has a background image and some other images inside of it, that whole thing is going to be bundled inside an archive, and that archive then you can send to anyone from your colleagues, and using the import functionality here, they can import that archive into some of their block categories. So you can export a single block. You can also, for example, let's say here we have 3 blocks in this category. If I navigate to this category and click here, I have the option to export all of the blocks from within a specific category. Again, this will give me an archive with all of the blocks within that category, right? And thirdly, I have the option to export all of the blocks. So this would go through all of the categories and export all of the blocks in them. This way, it's easy to move blocks between environments, systems, sharing them with others, right? All right, so let's go back to our demo category where we have our demo block. Now I'll click the edit button. What I want to do here is show you another option. So firstly, I'm now inside what we call a block editor. It looks very similar, almost identical to the page editor, but you'll notice here that we just have the title. There's no versioning, so there's no revision system on top of the blocks. You only have one copy of a block, right? But you still have that whole mobile responsive view, and all of the items in the right-hand sidebar work pretty much the same. And the other difference is that the settings they just have the category. There's no other settings associated with the block. Now, what I want to show you is how do we allow our users to use this block across different pages, but when they use the block in different pages, we want them to be able to edit this text here, this text here, this text here, as well as the label and the action on the buttons, right? But we don't want them to be able to move the positioning, add more text to it where it shouldn't be. We don't want them to be able to change the paddings, margins, where this, let's say, grid is placed here. We don't want them to be able to tweak mobile responsive bits, because we've built all of that. We know it works. We just want to give them the ability to change the content. This is where block variables come in. So first, in order to allow others to change the content, I need to first define which content is editable and which one is not, right? In this case, we want to make everything in a way editable, right? So I'm gonna click on the heading element here, and if I navigate to the element tab, just moving this here, you'll see here a message saying element not linked. That means that this element is not linked to a variable. Thus, when a user inserts this block currently into a page, they can't edit this value. This value will be locked for them. But we want them to be able to edit this value. To do that, so we select that element and we click on the link element button. This is going to now create a variable, and that element is now linked. The variable that we create in this case, is the one that's going to control this heading text, right? But sometimes you want to give a bit more of a descriptive variable name, because when you have multiple variables inside a block, it's just helpful to have a bit more context on, hey, I know that this variable actually represents this text. In this case, let's name this top orange heading, right? Because it's got this orange background, it's on the top, right? Now, let's do the same for this heading. Let's call this one main title, and this one paragraph under the title. And then on the button, when we link the button, you'll see we immediately get two variables created. Let's name this one main CTA label and main CTA URL, because we have two variables here, because one controls the label and the other one controls to which URL this button will point to, right? Because the user needs to control both. And let's do the same for the secondary. Sorry. And all right, cool. So we now defined our variables, right? And let's save our changes. Now I want to show you how this looks in practice when somebody is using this block inside a newly created page. So let's go to the pages and let's create a new page. We'll use the blank page template. So now, instead of me creating a whole block by starting with an empty block, what I will do is under my demo category, just refresh this, there we go, I will add my block and see what happens. So this block is now in the page, right? But I can't click and select any of its inner items. They're completely disabled for me, right? This is because this is a predefined, what we call a predefined block, right? However, because I've linked certain elements within that block to variables, I'll now allow the user to change the value in them. Right, and now they can edit, but you can see they can't change any other things here, right? Check out the dashboard, right? Similar way, let's say our main CTA is pricing, and our second one is we do it like this, right? So this way I have a reusable block, and I've restricted the editing capabilities of my authors, but still I gave them enough capabilities that this block can be reused across different pages and that it can have different content. Now that's one part of it. The other part is what we call content inheritance. So now, for example, let's say I want to edit this block, right? So what you can first of all see here, that this is no longer just referenced as a block, but I can see the name of that block. This tells me that this is a predefined block, right? And I know the name of that predefined block. The other thing I can do is I can edit this block. I can go into the pages, blocks, and then find my block there and edit it there. But if I know it's exactly this one, I can just click the edit block button here, and it's gonna move me into the block editor. So you can see this is no longer the page editor. And now when it comes to the content inheritance, this is where, like, let's say that we've changed the way we want this this element, this grid in particular, to be styled, right? Let's say that, hey, we want to move from this light orange color into a grayish color, and let's say we said, oh, we want to have a background color on this text, whatever reason, and we want to make sure that this heading has a bigger margin on the bottom end, right? So let's say we did these changes. Now we don't want to go back and edit every single page manually, right? And delete the current block, insert the new block, repopulate the variables. It would just be too much work, right? So in this case, we just need to edit the block and save that block. And what happens in the background is the system looks for any page using that block, and it goes into that page, it replaces the block, the old one, with this new one, and repopulates the existing variables. This way, instead of, in a way, like you had a page, you had a dozen pages using this block, you edited the block in one place, and those changes automatically propagate across all of those pages, but keeping the existing variable values in place, right? So this is that other page that we had, and you can see I haven't yet inherited the pages. If I were to refresh this page, the whole page, I would get the new block there. But instead of, because people often work in two tabs, in one they work on blocks, and the other they oftentimes just keep adding more blocks. We added a handy feature here to just refresh the block instead of refreshing the whole page, and that will automatically get this particular block refreshed. So you can see here, I immediately inherited the visual changes of that block, but my variables are still in place, right? Similar thing is like if I go to the plus here, and for example, I've got a block here. If I added a new block, or if I changed this block for whatever reason, right, I don't need to refresh the whole page. We've got the refresh functionality here, which would then refresh the block, and there you go, the new one will appear. And if I've added or deleted blocks, they will also appear automatically, right? Now, so we talked about the organization of blocks. We talked about the block editor, the inheritance, and the block variables, right? But let's say that there's a few users within your organization that you trust, and you want to give them that capability to actually edit blocks, right, inside pages. So you don't want to log them out from being able to make changes here. For those users, you want to give them the ability to unlock a block or unlink a block. So since I am one of those super users, I have this ability here to unlink this block. If I click that button, what happens is that now I can make changes to not only the block, but I can select any of the inner elements. When we unlink the block, what happens is that we destroy that reference to the original block. And if you now edit the original block, this page won't inherit the changes anymore because that reference no longer exists, right? So just be careful with whom you give those permissions, because if too many people have the ability to unlink the block and they've unlinked a lot of blocks, you will lose that ability for content inheritance, and then you will need to go manually through the pages, right? And I mean, in practice, for example, when we were rebuilding Webiny.com with the page builder, we built everything through blocks because it's easier just to focus on one piece of your page and build that, and that's a block, right? But again, because we reuse a lot of our content across many different pages, just at the moment, like we have in our production website, we have a whole library with 50 or 60 blocks, and creating new pages for our marketing teams takes just seconds because they just go in and find the block they need, and then add it, and then find another one and add it. And just in practice, a new page is done within just a few seconds, right? Because we've built this whole big library of blocks for us. And so this is where I'm going to kind of finish this video. Like, the blocks are a powerful mechanism because they allow you to standardize the content, and they allow you to build a library of the content as kind of building blocks for your page. But also they allow you to have a mechanism for content inheritance and in practice that allows you to just be way more efficient and allow your people, your content editors, to have this library of existing elements, so that when they need to build a page, they don't need to fiddle too much around with grids, paddings, margins, and things like that. They just have this nice library, and they just go in the block library, select the category, select the block, select the category, select the block, and build the whole page. It's just a so much nicer experience in practice, and the content editors we see are enjoying that. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.